He had 16, count them, 1-6, top 40 hits before he finally broke through, he being Elton John, of course, and took that one to number one on the UK singles charts. The first UK number one for Elton John, of course, a duet with Kiki D, going to number one in the UK on this day 49 years ago, back in 1976. Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Fun fact, Elton John and his longtime musical partner Bernie Taupin wrote the song, but as they did so many, Taupin was the lyrical genius behind Elton John, one would argue. They wrote, though, that particular song under the pseudonyms Anne Orson and Carte Blanche. Why, I haven't the foggiest, but Stephen King once decided he was going to be Richard Bachman and write books under that name. You do you. Keep putting out great books like Stephen King or Bachman, or putting out great music like Elton John. And you can do it under whatever name you want. It is 6 minutes after 9 on this Thursday morning, the 24th of July. Welcome to the program. Thank you very much for spending some of your valuable time with us. We will be watching a couple of things today that are happening. The verdict, and we're expecting that sooner than the sentencing in the convoy trial in Ottawa. But the Hockey Canada verdict, as you know, it's been discussed all morning during All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. We will bring you that verdict as soon as we hear it from that courtroom in London. And in Ottawa, that sentencing trial continues for Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, who were found guilty of mischief for their roles in the protest, or as one of our callers yesterday described it, an occupation in Ottawa over COVID-19 health measures. And I know how at least one resident of our community feels about all of this. On my way to work this morning, going through my favorite part, like, you know how much I love roundabouts, right? These, can I ask dear region of Waterloo, could we have some more? Please, sir, could I have some more? I don't want any more roundabouts. We build roundabouts. We're roundabout crazy around here, and these things are ridiculous. Anyway, Ira Needles Boulevard, that's where we sit here at the radio station at the boardwalk. So I've got to come along 1, 2, I think 5 roundabouts every day. Goodness gracious me. Anyway, as I entered one of these roundabouts this morning, driver of a truck, it was a big white pickup truck. It almost looked like Jerry Cheevers' goalie mask. Do you remember Jerry Cheevers from the Boston Bruins? Plain white mask, and then he put little black marks of stitches on it, where he would have needed stitches had he been hit in the face if the mask had not yet been invented. Thank you very much, Jacques Plante, for that. Anyway, that's what the truck looked like. It was white and had all this black on it. I'm not sure if it was some sort of design. I couldn't quite make it out as he went through the roundabout and then I came around in behind. But what was clearly visible on this white pickup truck were, I guess, 3 things. One is the Canadian flag hanging out the back, because that's exactly what you expect from pickup trucks these days. And on the driver's side door, it said Freedom Convoy in very clear black script. What it was surrounded by, again, I can't be sure. Was it some sort of image painted into the vehicle? There was all kinds of words. I don't know. But Freedom Convoy, driver's side door of this white pickup with the Canadian flag hanging out the back, very clearly visible. And then, as he went around the roundabout and I came around in behind, also visible on the back bumper, one side unvaxxed, the other side overtaxed. That's what this truck, that's the message this gentleman decided to carry into the world today. Freedom Convoy on the driver's side door, Canadian flag hanging out the back of the pickup bed, and on the bumper, one side says unvaxxed, the other side says overtaxed. We know how he feels about that sentencing hearing in Ottawa today, don't we? It's the final countdown. All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Number 1. Regional police investigating a shooting after a 33-year-old man showed up at hospital with a gunshot wound. Police were made aware of the incident when they got a call from the hospital where the man showed up. His injuries described as non-life-threatening. Police say their initial investigation leads them to believe this was a targeted incident. Number 2, there are cameras installed by a sports streaming service at the Waterloo Memorial Recreation Complex. The cameras are used to stream minor hockey games within Ontario's Alliance hockey program. But the city of Waterloo says the cameras were left on this summer as camps were happening at the rec centre. This may have also impacted campers at Albert McCormick. The city says the cameras have been unplugged, and they are working with the operator to figure out why the stream was running this summer. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a ruling expected today in the sexual assault trial of 5 former Canada World Junior hockey players. Some experts say this trial has put sports culture under a national microscope and sparked a new wave of conversations about consent. Number 4, rescue efforts underway at a northern BC mine where 3 workers are trapped underground. 2 contractors from BC, another from Ontario, confirmed they were in a designated refuge station before there were 2 collapses that blocked the access way out and cut off communications. A company that owns the mine says the refuge bay has enough food, water, and ventilation for what it describes as an extended stay. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Well, yes, indeed. The city of Cambridge will contribute $25,000 to light up our lives along the Grand River and Park Hill Bridge at the Cambridge Mill. The plan from Pearl Hospitality, which owns the mill, will see 3 elliptical beam linear floodlights mounted below the underside of the bridge. Now, these lights will be programmable so they can be changed. Their color can be changed to suit occasions like Canada Day, for example. Pearl Hospitality will pay to power and maintain the lights in the long term. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Your wake-up call is on the way, and this morning I have for you a tale of 2 local governments. Because in case you forgot, we need so much government in this region, we need 2 local governments. But one is doing business one way, and another is doing business in a different way. And I'll explain those differences in our 2 local governments coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We have this morning a tale of 2 local governments and the different ways they go about doing their business. I mean, why stop at one local government when you can have 2? It's not like we're over-governed or anything like that. But you probably heard the story. I just mentioned it again in the Farwell Show 5 this morning. And Justin Kohler, our reporter in the 570 News Center, was covering it this morning. It's a little bit unsettling, I would say. When I first saw the media release from the city of Waterloo last night, I raised a Spockian eyebrow because it just sounded a little bit off-putting, if you will, that these cameras installed at Albert McCormick Arena, the Waterloo Memorial Recreation Complex, meant to provide live streaming of minor hockey games within the Alliance program here in Ontario, were active during summer camps at both the rec complex in Waterloo or Albert McCormick Community Centre. It just smacks you as a little bit odd. At least it did me. So consider that story as one, and then consider what I mentioned to you the other day, a Freedom of Information request filed by our local newspaper, the Waterloo Region Record, asking for some data around speed cameras that are in place here in the region. And the request by the newspaper specifically said, do not supply identifying information about a vehicle or its owner. What the paper was looking for was the data around the dates, the times, the locations where most tickets were issued, the fines, the number of tickets, etc. The sort of thing, I'll remind you, that in neighboring Wellington County, the information, that data has been shared with the public so that we know how much revenue has been generated, which cameras are generating the most tickets and the highest revenue. And if you think about this kind of information, what are we going to learn here? Perhaps that a lot of tickets are issued on Sundays, for example. Don't get me started with the whole 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365-day nature of the speed camera program. You know how I feel about that. I think we feel similarly. It should not be a round-the-clock, year-round initiative in a school zone, but we'll leave that aside. The point is, what the newspaper was asking for was nothing that would jeopardize the personal information or the identity of the vehicle owner that was issued the ticket. And yet, the regional government denied the request, saying that by doing this, it could interfere with and negatively impact the region's road safety program. Let me tell you this. If you find out that the camera on on Westmount near Ottawa was the camera handing out the most tickets, do you think you might slow down more, even more, when you go through there? Of course you would. So my point is this. There is zero reason for the regional government to have denied this freedom of information request. And in so denying it, they lose our trust, and we believe that they are not transparent at all, the regional government. It just goes completely against transparency. It's data. And if we have data, we can make better decisions. The region should not be holding this data behind a cloak. It should not be kept from us. It's secretive. Now, back to these cameras that may have been streaming well outside of the hockey season while these day camps were going on. It strikes you as odd. You raise an eyebrow. It maybe makes you a little bit unsettled. But look at the way Waterloo is going about doing this. It told us that this had happened. It broke down the details of what it learned, the actions it took, disabling the cameras, unplugging them once it learned they were streaming, and the work that is now being done to figure out why in HE double hockey sticks this was even happening. It's not the nicest story for the city of Waterloo to have to share, but they're sharing it very forthright, very transparently, very upfront. City of Waterloo, proactive, transparent. Region of Waterloo, not so much. A tale of two local governments doing their business differently. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This is the place where we can come and get stuff off our chest, right? I know it comes across as complaining or whining sometimes. Depends on perhaps the mood you're in when you're listening or how you feel about the particular topic. But I gotta share this. I've been holding it in for too long, and it's become, it might be, for the longest time I have said that litter is my biggest pet peeve. I just never understand how something ends up on the ground that used to be in your hand or in your car or whatever the case may be. Like you can get that to the proper trash receptacle, right? Drives me bananas. But there's a new one that has emerged, emphasis on the pet, that maybe this comes across as preachy, but I got to get it off my chest. I cannot for the life of me, and I mentioned while I was away last week, I had ample time, more time than usual, to spend with Rosie, the pandemic pup. We took walks together more often than we usually do when I'm at work for 8 hours every day. And I continue to be amazed and confused and confounded all at the same time. The number of fellow dog walkers I see who are looking at their phones while they are walking their dog. Why do you do this? First of all, it's not exactly safe, but forget that part. More to the point is you are out on the street with another living creature, your dog. You could actually just spend your time with that pet as opposed to whatever it is you're scrolling on your phone or whomever it is you're texting with on your phone. Like you could take your dog for a walk and pick up your phone again later. Like I can't for the life of me wrap my head around this. And my beloved and I were out for a walk together the other night, and I had started talking to the dog at some point along the way, and she says, "Is this what you do when you walk Rosie by yourself?" I said, "Yes." I know she can't answer, but I promise you this. I'm no dog whisperer here, okay? But I promise you that the bond is created and the connection is real between you and the animal on the other end of that leash. It's real. And you can build that bond and strengthen that connection by actually being in the moment with your dog while walking. Like I can't understand this. Walk the dog and be on your phone at the same time. I saw another gentleman, and he wasn't with a pet. He just had his headphones on and was on the phone. Maybe he was walking along, looking at the phone, headphones on. Maybe he was picking the next song in his playlist. I don't know. But again, I'm like, you're outside. Why do we even need... I used to listen to podcasts a lot while I was walking the dog until my buddy talked about his outdoor pursuits and how he never used headphones because you're in nature. And I stopped listening to the podcast. If I want to listen to a podcast, I'll listen to a podcast. If I want to read a book, I'll read a book. If I want to walk the dog, I'll walk the dog. I will do those things as the events that they are. Just imagine if you didn't put headphones on and listen to music or a podcast while you walk, you might hear the wind rustle through the leaves. You might hear a bird chirp. You might hear the vehicle that's approaching as you cross the street. I mean, just all kinds of... Who's wagging the dog here? Is the phone in charge of you, or are you in charge of the phone? My pet peeve is people who walk their dogs while looking at their phones. Can you please stop doing that? You're driving me nuts. The phone doesn't control you. You control the phone. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio. If you follow the electric vehicle market, even casually, it would be fair to say, I believe, that the market for EVs in Canada is somewhat limited. If you look around the world, you can see electric vehicles that are much more accessible at a price point that are then taken up by more consumers because they can afford entry into the electric vehicle market. And thus, there is a greater market share. Why is it, though, that we can't get some of these less expensive EVs into Canada? That is a question being asked by electric vehicle enthusiasts. And we're going to explore it a little further this morning with Daniel Breton, who's the head of Electric Mobility Canada. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
What is it that's holding us in Canada back from having access to these less expensive European EVs, for example?
Well, I would say that part of it has to do with the fact that some car makers do not want Canadians to have access to more affordable electric cars from other countries. Let's be honest here. Canada doesn't produce any affordable electric car, or for that matter, it only produces one affordable gas car, which is a Honda Civic. So affordability has been an issue for a number of years now, because if people follow this, they are aware of the fact that the price of new vehicles has gone up significantly in the past 6 or 7 years, since 2019. So we had discussions with some car makers who want to bring affordable electric cars from Europe, never mind China, because of all the issues with China. But some car makers want to bring them from Europe to Canada. And some of the car makers are pushing back because for them, it will mean that they will lose market share of more affordable gas cars.
Do these electric vehicles from Europe, China, etc., Daniel, meet the safety regulations that exist here in Canada?
Well, I mean, the safety regulations are different from one country to another, but in the European Union, they have one set of regulation. In Canada, we have another one. In the U.S., they have other ones. In Japan, they have other ones. And believe it or not, 2 days ago, Japan and the U.S. signed a free trade agreement where U.S. cars now will be admissible or allowed to be sold in Japan without having to comply to Japanese safety regulations, meaning that they can use their own set of regulations. So my argument is that if cars being sold in Europe are good enough for European roads, why are they not good enough for Canadian roads? And when I heard about somebody from Transport Canada saying, well, you know, it's a speed thing. Well, actually, people drive faster in Europe than they drive in Canada. When they say, well, it's the fact that people like larger cars in Canada, so therefore, if we bring in more affordable electric cars, maybe smaller electric cars, there's going to be safety issues. Well, my wife drives a Smart 42 electric. She's been driving it for 11 years. So why was she allowed to buy it in Canada in the first place? So to me, honestly, it has more to do with lobbying from some car makers so that people don't have the choice to buy affordable electric cars in Canada.
Would the price point move the needle, do you believe, Daniel, in electric vehicle uptake here in Canada? Because
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Absolutely, because let's face it. I mean, when we're looking, I would say, mid-level price range, I mean, now there's a good choice of, you know, electric cars between, I would say, $50,000 and $70,000, which is close to the average price of a new car in Canada nowadays. It's above $60,000, believe it or not. But the issue is for those who want to buy a more affordable car, I would say between $30,000 and $45,000. Because keep in mind that buying an entry-level Honda Civic nowadays is almost $32,000. So, I mean, forget buying an electric car at $20,000 in Canada. Forget even buying a gas car at $20,000 in Canada today. So when we're talking affordable, we're talking between 30 and 45, I would say.
How do we break down these barriers?
Well, I can tell you that my calls publicly to have that conversation has sparked some interest from Transport Canada. We are having conversations to bring them in. And I think, I mean, I can't be sure of this, but I can tell you that more and more Canadians want to buy electric cars, but they want to buy affordable electric cars. So obviously, if the Canadian government and if some car makers want to bring them in, I think that right now the timing is right, especially since we all know that we can't trust, let's face it, Donald Trump's word or signature. So even if we do come to an agreement, we want to work with other partners, such as Europe or South Korea or Japan or even Mexico. I was in Mexico, and there you could buy an affordable electric car starting at $26,000, not even coming from China, but actually coming from South Korea. So my issue here is to make sure that if we do find other partners in the U.S., and we should, no matter even if we sign an agreement or not, we have to sign agreements with the European Union. And one way to work on these agreements is to let those European cars coming in.
Daniel, I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
You too. Bye now. Daniel Breton is the head of Electric Mobility Canada. There's quite a bit in there, including the suggestion that automakers are lobbying against allowing access to less expensive electric vehicles. There's also the Transport Canada regulations around what makes a vehicle or what safety boxes have to be checked for a vehicle to be fit for the roads in this country vis-a-vis in other countries. And, of course, it comes down to that shift in the kinds of vehicles that we are interested in. Gasoline, hybrid, all electric, and Daniel believes quite clearly that price point is one of the biggest inhibiting factors keeping us from moving into the electric vehicle market? Is the price point what's holding you back? If you have not already adopted an electric vehicle for your life, is it the price that's holding you back, or are there other factors? Should we change what regulations have long existed from Transport Canada to allow more electric vehicles onto our roadways? Less expensive electric vehicles from Europe, from China, etc. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. Let's hear from you. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
More and more Canadians want to buy electric cars, but they want to buy affordable electric cars. My issue here is to make sure that if we do find other partners in the U.S., and we should, even if we sign an agreement or not, we have to sign agreements with the European Union. And one way to work on these agreements is to let those European cars coming in.
By the way, speaking of that deal with the U.S., we will talk trade in about 15 minutes' time, just after the 10 a.m. news. I'll talk about the latest and what you want to see Prime Minister Carney do when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump in the United States. That right there was Daniel Breton, who heads Electric Mobility Canada. And you heard him say more Canadians want to buy electric vehicles. He believes one of the biggest obstacles to that is the price point. So he's advocating for Transport Canada to lower its standards, if you will, change its regulations when it comes to the safety standards required before any vehicle gets on the road in this country. Let's change those. Let's lower those so that we can have more access in our markets to these European or Chinese-made electric vehicles that are obviously lower priced. Is that the biggest obstacle? Is that what's holding you back from buying an electric vehicle? Just the price? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Doug is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Michael.
Hello, Douglas.
I probably know there's a lot of people in my age group that have an aversion to electrical vehicles, but for more than one reason. For me, it's threefold. And the price is a big thing. A lot of people in my age group certainly can't afford electrical vehicles where they are now. Cheaper ones might be a bit better, but I still think by bringing more cars onto the market is putting the cart before the horse, because there's still way too few places to charge them up. And somebody made a point in a conversation we were having the other day about if we have all these electrical vehicles and people start charging them all around the same time, what's going to do to the electrical grid? I thought that's an interesting point. But I'm kind of concerned about the safety aspect of things. I mean, what they're going to reducing safety odds to me is not a great thing. But the trust in how far you can go with them, because of the lack of access to charging stations, is a concern for me more than the price, if I can afford it. I just worry about how far they. I got over the thing about how far they would go and what the power would be like when they started to get low. But I'm still concerned about being able to find a place to charge it up once it does get. I'm not doing it at home. So.
Yeah, Doug, I hear where you're coming from, and range anxiety is real. And I've always wondered, and I remember saying this a long time ago when I saw a new gas station being built, and I thought, if we have this electric vehicle mandate whereby when 2035 rolls around, all electric vehicles on our roads, why are we even building gas stations anymore? They should all be charging stations, shouldn't they? We got to get that infrastructure in place too. It's really interesting times. Carts seems to be well in front of the horse in this regard. Gary, number 41 on our listeners list. Good morning.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, quick story about the electric car, like the vehicle thing. So I have a coworker who had a big Dodge Ram, and cost him all kinds of money and fuel and stuff. So he decided to trade it in and got himself a nice electric sports car vehicle. Now, he just recently did the trip. Well, he used to do the trip to drive to Newfoundland with a truck, and it just cost him so much money, right? So when he traded the vehicle, he made the trip to Newfoundland, and he was posting, his travels and stops and stuff, and he had mapped it out with where to, plug in the car and stuff like that. And he was saying a couple of times he was a little worried because he'd get to a place and there was already 2 cars plugged in, or they were out of service or something like that. But, that is another scary point that I would, if I had an electric vehicle, sure, to save money on gas, but it's if I was doing long traveling trips, to try and find a place to plug it in. And he had to wait a couple of times, so it took a little longer than expected to get to his final destination. He actually finally made it, and he actually had an extra charging unit that he sent to Newfoundland to plug at his mom and dad's or his sister's house. So when he got there, he could plug it in. But he showed me the mapping and all that stuff, but it was a little sketchy from here to there at certain points. But he loves it. He's saving all kinds of money and fuel, but I'm not sure if I'd take that risk myself.
All right, Gary. Number 41. Appreciate you weighing in this morning as electric vehicles tried to gain a greater foothold, a greater market share in our automotive industry here in Canada. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Electric Mobility Canada says there's a blockage from Transport Canada that says for safety reasons, we cannot allow these cheaper electric vehicles from China, the European Union, into Canada, lest we create havoc on our roads. And Daniel Breton believes that's overstated, not to mention the intense lobbying by the industry itself that wants to continue creating gasoline-powered automobiles. Is price point the main thing keeping you out of the EV market? Let's go back to the phones. John, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
Just great.
Good.
Good. I just wanted to comment on that. They better fix the grid before they start pushing these EVs, because the grid can't handle what we have now.
I feel similarly. I do. Not only am I worried about the grid and its capacity overall, but I'm wondering where we're even going to get the capacity to charge all of the electric vehicles that they thought we would have in roughly 10 years from now.
That's right. Days like this, you know how hot it's going to get today. I work for a big cement plant west of you, and you probably know where it is.
I do know the one, absolutely.
Well, days like this, Ontario Hydro shuts us down because we will brown out Toronto if we keep running on days like today.
Well, there you go.
That's just for air conditioners. Now, when everybody starts plugging cars in, it's going to get even worse.
John, I appreciate the call and the perspective on this. I mean, there are obviously hurdles to be overcome here. Paul's email to Mike at 570news.com says, if you want cheap electric vehicles, it's very simple. All the Canadian government needs to do is reduce or eliminate all safety standards. North American-built vehicles, European and Asian, are required to meet some standards of safety to be sold in Canada. But if we want cheap Chinese electric vehicles, let's start by removing crash standards. And since you're going to die in an even minor accident, no need for seatbelts or airbags, they're gone. Cost comes down. I think Paul's being facetious. Are vehicles over-engineered for safety? Probably. But ask the people who got rear-ended in Pintos. Let's drop the standards and create a new market fit for Chinese electric vehicles. Again, I think there's some... I can hear the sarcasm oozing out of Paul's email this morning. I feel as though, and there was a headline yesterday in the business section, I didn't get deep into the story, but I feel about EV mandates in Canada. I feel as though the targets are going to be changing. That's my sense in all of this. We shall see where things go. We are going to the 570 News Center for an update, and then let's talk trade. How do you want Prime Minister Carney to deal with U.S. President Donald Trump? This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
We don't have to take a backseat to anyone, and we sure the heck don't have to take a backseat to Donald Trump. We need to start diversifying our trade, sending our goods all around the world. We're no shrinking violet. We're an economic powerhouse. Nothing against the Americans. I got a problem with one person, and that's Donald Trump down there.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
And that, of course, is Ontario Premier Doug Ford, as Canada's premiers met this week in Huntsville. Prime Minister Carney, part of one day of those meetings, and Ontario Premier Ford, clearly no love lost for the President of the United States. We are in the midst of a trade war. I think it's fair to call it that. And there has been a narrative that's begun to emerge that suggests if the tariffs imposed on Canada are lower than those imposed on other countries, then we should count this as some sort of trade victory in these ongoing negotiations with that that August 1st deadline, I'll remind you, fast approaching. That would be next Friday, if you're keeping track. Jim Stanford is an economist and director at the Center for Future Work, joins us to talk about this. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
That narrative that if we have lower tariffs imposed on us as a country vis-a-vis other nations, counting that as a victory for Canada, you've described that as unjustified and dangerous optimism. Why?
You know, I like to take a half glass full approach to life, Mike, but just the fact that, our tariff under Trump might be lower than some other countries, China or Indonesia or other countries that Mr. Trump has hit with tariffs, ignores the fact that Canada is uniquely dependent on exports to the United States. So even a seemingly lower tariff rate is going to exact a much larger economic toll from Canada. So in that regard, I think Canada still needs to be pushing for a restoration of, what we've done for the last 30 years, which is tariff-free trade within North America. Our whole economy over 30 years has become organized around that principle. So even a seemingly modest tariff, maybe 10% instead of the 35% that he's threatening, is still going to do us immense damage, and we shouldn't give it the approval that signing an agreement would mean.
What cards, Jim, do we hold as a nation in these negotiations?
Yeah, Mr. Trump has loved to say that, he's got all the power because they're the big guy. But in fact, when you look at it in aggregate terms, Mike, in terms of the number of dollars going both ways or the kind of structural importance of trade, the Americans have as much at stake in the Canada-U.S. relationship as we do. It is a two-way flow. It's $1 trillion that goes both ways. And Canada has a small surplus in the overall balance, but the Americans sell $500 billion worth of goods and services in Canada. And moreover, the stuff they buy from us, for the most part, is not sort of finished consumer products. A bottle of maple syrup on the shelf at Costco made in Canada. Most of what they buy from us are materials and inputs and parts and supplies, machinery, energy that are used by U.S. businesses, not by U.S. consumers. So he's really shooting himself in his own foot by putting big tariffs on stuff they get from Canada. It's actually going to make things harder for American businesses. So, Mr. Trump is obviously known for his bluster and his threats and his ultimatums, but our negotiators have to look behind that and say, what do they actually have at stake with Canada? And they've got a lot at stake. They would suffer a lot, not as much proportionately as we would because they're bigger, but in dollar terms, they would suffer as much as we do. And our status as a big market for American products and a key source of supplies for American businesses, that's what gives us some cards in this bargaining.
What if that deadline of August the 1st, next Friday, comes and goes with no deal at all?
Right. Yeah, and I think that is very, very likely because remember, first of all, Mr. Trump's had other deadlines that have come and gone. There's a certain nickname flying around for him now that reflects that fact, Taco. And he said that he wants to negotiate deals with over 100 countries. In fact, yesterday in the media, he said he's negotiated with 200 countries. Now, there are only 195 countries in the world, so I'm not sure where the other 5 are, I guess on another planet. But there's no way that he's going to do that by August 1st. And these deals that he's negotiating are not trade agreements in the conventional sense, which is a full-blown comprehensive agreement that's legally binding and has to get ratified by each country's parliament. They're just kind of memorandums. They're almost like his executive orders with the big black Sharpie. So it's almost certain that the August 1st deadline will come and go. He already has the tariffs on us. So the impact for Canada of not signing means a continuation of the current status quo, which is very unacceptable. We're experiencing major costs from the uncertainty that's involved, but we preserve our ability to push back. We preserve our ability to challenge his tariffs under the existing free trade agreement or the World Trade Organization, or even in the U.S. courts. There's important U.S. courts that have overruled his tariffs as saying they're illegal in U.S. terms. If we accept those tariffs in a deal, then suddenly all those challenges are gone. You can't challenge something if you've accepted it. So it's not ideal, but I think it would be better than locking in a situation that is just going to be more damaging for Canada than pretty well any other country in the world.
What would a good outcome for Canada look like at the end of all of this?
Right. Well, the best outcome would be to get all of the tariffs off. You've got a combination of tariffs on particular industries like steel and aluminum and auto, copper. He's threatening them on other industries like aerospace and pharmaceuticals and trucks. The best thing would be to get all of those off, including the so-called baseline tariff, as he calls it, that he wants to apply to everything. And we can, usually in bargaining, you have to let the other side claim some kind of victory. So we've already given him some on the border security and the digital services tax and so on. Maybe find one or two other things that are kind of, symbolically useful for him. But then get back to how we've been doing it for 30 years. Like I say, our industries and our factories and our capital has been invested in Canada on the assumption that somebody producing something here can sell it in the U.S. and Mexico without tariffs. And we need to be heading back to that as the ultimate goal. Now, in the meantime, if we can't get Mr. Trump off of his tariff, bandwagon, then we're going to have to find other ways to push back. And that means our own tariffs. It means legal challenges at those various forums that I mentioned, and it may mean non-tariff measures of various sorts, such as export taxes or limits on some of the key supplies that we sell them.
Jim, really appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.
Jim Stanford is an economist and the director of the Center for Future Work. That center's latest report warns that a bad deal with Donald Trump is worse than getting no deal with Donald Trump. It does seem as though next Friday's deadline will come and go without any resolution in place. But what I'm curious about is your perspective on all of this and how you would like to see Canada respond. How should Prime Minister Carney approach these negotiations with President Donald Trump? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. How do we deal with this elephant in the room? Let me know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Mr. Trump is obviously known for his bluster and his threats and his ultimatums, but our negotiators have to look behind that and say, what do they actually have at stake with Canada? And they've got a lot at stake. They would suffer a lot, not as much proportionately as we would because they're bigger, but in dollar terms, they would suffer as much as we do. And our status as a big market for American products and a key source of supplies for American businesses, that's what gives us some cards in this bargaining.
Jim Stanford is the director of the Center for Future Work. That center's new report suggests getting no deal at all with the U.S. is better than a bad deal because our economy is uniquely dependent on exports to the U.S. and even tariffs that seem relatively favorable compared to other nations in the world in their dealings with the United States would still cause disproportionate and unprecedented damage to Canada. How do you want to see Canada go about these negotiations with the U.S.? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Dennis, good morning.
Morning. Hello?
Hi.
You got?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I personally think that the answer is a formal economic union with the United States, like they have in Europe, free and fair trade. We don't need a border. You know, the border will be for visitors and to each country, but going back, free back and forth. Let's use the U.S. dollar. I mean, it's used in many other countries around the world, and then we can keep our our country, our flag, our anthem, our healthcare, our gun laws, our education, whatever else. The problem is I don't know the downsides or even all the upsides of that option, because we as a country lack the sophistication and ability to even discuss such options. We go to extremes. The one extreme is the 51st state, which, by the way, we haven't discussed either, the upsides and downsides. We just reject it out of hand. And, of course, we careen to the other extreme, which is the elbows up nonsense, which is equally incompetent in my view. A learned and sophisticated society would be able to debate public policy issues in our houses of government, in our academia, in our media. Kudos to you, at least you're talking about it, and around the kitchen table. And we Canadians, we just wait to be told. And I think that's the problem. So that's my perspective on it.
You know what, Dennis? I really appreciate that perspective and the articulate manner in which you provided it. Listen, I really like where you're coming from when it comes to a learned society in the houses of government and right down to the kitchen tables should be able to discuss and debate these things and make decisions based on the merits of those discussions and debates. Millie, good morning.
Oh, well, hi, Mike. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
Oh, very good. I just loved your talk that you got.
Thank you very much.
And, I think our Prime Minister should take it to the people on the vote with what to do with the states. I disagree with some of their annex that they're trying to pull with us Canadians. We're Canadians, not a state.
Yeah, Millie, I appreciate that perspective as well. And doesn't it always come down to this, right? It's almost like we want a referendum on things. Like we've kind of already had that referendum, or very recently we did when we voted. And we voted for this leader, Mark Carney. I know not everybody did, but that's who won the election. But now we're like, but you should come back to us and ask us, how we feel and what we want you to do. I think we kind of gave them that mandate already. I totally understand the sentiment, but I think we already handed the reins over. Pete, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Just excellent, thank you. How about you?
I'm not bad.
Good.
Well, I believe Mark Carney's not a fit person to lead us, so I have no confidence that we're going to get a deal that we need.
Why is Mark Carney not fit to lead us?
Well, honestly, with the election, the way things were done, did he really win? Let's go there to start.
Well, yeah, he did. I mean, why? What would make you think otherwise?
Well, just all the stuff you heard afterward about boxes of votes disappearing, voting in pencil has always been 10 before this.
Wait, where did we hear that from?
Well, it's on YouTube. It's on those places.
Okay, on YouTube, on those places. I got you. There were no shenanigans in this federal election. There were no There were no hanging chads, no disappearing ballots, or any such thing. How do you feel about the approach we're taking, or what approach would you like to see us take in these negotiations with the U.S. on trade? We'll take more calls after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. What approach would you like to see Canada Prime Minister Mark Carney take to trade negotiations with U.S. President Donald Trump? Let's go back to the phones. Francis, good morning.
Good morning. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You know, if he has nothing there to put tariffs on, like, don't send nothing to the States for, say, 3 days. And you think that would get his attention, how much his tariffs and stuff would bring in? Or watch what the stock markets are going to do. That would be my approach, and I'll say, God bless and God help us.
Thank you, Francis. Number 36 from the beautiful community of Listowel, joining us on the show as he regularly does. Just shut it down for 3 days. That'll show Donald Trump. Ontario Premier Doug Ford minced no words in talking about the U.S. president as Canada's premiers held a media conference, all of them seated across the same table at the end of those meetings in Huntsville yesterday. And this is what Premier Ford had to say about U.S. President Donald Trump.
We buy 400% more than what Japan, actually more than 400% more than what Japan pays. So maybe when Japan catches up to us, then we can sit down and talk those numbers. But those are facts. So I'll repeat this. We buy more products off the U.S. than Japan, and Korea, China, Mexico, and the U.K. combined. I think we throw France in there too. But anyways, we're an economic powerhouse, folks. We don't have to take a backseat to anyone, and we sure the heck don't have to take a backseat to Donald Trump. We need to start diversifying our trade, sending our goods all around the world. We're no shrinking violet. We're an economic powerhouse in Canada, and we'll make sure that we send our products around the world and be less reliant on the Americans. And it's nothing against the Americans. I got a problem with one person, and that's Donald Trump down there.
Nothing against the Americans. I've got a problem with just one person down there, and that would be the president, Donald Trump. That reference to Japan, of course, in the wake of the U.S.'s deal with Japan that was announced yesterday. And that has sent some degree of shockwave through our automotive industry. There could obviously be some impact there as we continue to work towards and very likely beyond that August 1st deadline. As Jim Stanford from the Center for Future Work told us in our conversation earlier this half hour, getting no deal at all is better than taking a bad deal with the United States. And as you hear Premier Ford say in that clip we just played, Ontario, Canada itself has some economic power here. I think the key for us is unlocking that power. All right, we're going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. Still to come on the show today, it is your Thursday show. That means the flip side. We have some fun at 11:30 this morning. And if you missed what Billy Joel did for some pedicab riders in New York the other day, well, we'll fill you in on that and then find out about your celebrity encounters. Also, because it's Thursday at this time, it's time for Living Retired, the humor column brought to life on our show, and we'll talk about uniquely Canadian foods and more with Gary Chalk coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's all right. I'm hooked on a feeling.
I can just feel the anticipation build as Blue Swede gets into Hooked on a Feelin', especially from the home of our dear friend Mary in Wilmot Township, who loves our weekly Living Retired segment with the man who writes the column and then brings it to life on our program. Gary Chalk joins us every Thursday morning at this time. Mr. Chalk, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Mary, and good morning, Mike, with a mic.
Mary on a bike and Mike and Gary with some mics, and here we go with Living Retired for another week. How are things at the home offices this week?
They're pretty good, actually.
Good.
I sense this week though, because you were off last week and you've come back all revived and ready to go. So you had a nice vacation.
I had a very good staycation. Did a whole lot of nothing, Mr. Chalk.
Boy, that sounds all right. And you know what? I think, if I could be so presumptuous, I think the reason that you're feeling so good is because on your vacation you didn't have to go to an airport. Because the problem with going to an airport is going to an airport.
Oh, Gary, you know me so well. You do. I would take a road trip over a flight any day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Well, I'm telling you, in the past year, Jan and I, we're intent on spending our son's inheritance and just traveling. And we've been in the past year in airports in Toronto, New York City, Phoenix, Madrid, Lisbon, Vancouver, Calgary. And I'm convinced the reason that passengers are instructed to arrive at the airport as many hours as possible before their flight is so the airlines have as many hours as possible to make arrangements or to delay or cancel the flight.
You got to give them plenty of time to come up with those cancellations and delays, Gary.
Oh, I'm telling you. And you know, before you can even get to enter the terminal, you got to get there. You either have to drive and park your car in the multi-level parking garage, use a service like Park and Fly, use a local taxi, and or they drive you, get some poor sucker to drive you. But the problem is, it's a lesson in survival. Bottom line, at the entrance, before you can even go into the terminal, it's a mass of humanity. They're getting suitcases out of cars, they're hugging, they're kissing, one last check on the passport. All of this chaos is happening in an area where it's illegal to park.
Yeah, it may be illegal to park, but people don't pay much attention to those signs based on my experience.
Oh, I'm telling you. Next, you think that's bad. Then you get your luggage, which has wheels that don't work, and you got your handle, which means your luggage is like 5 feet behind. And then you walk in the terminal, you look for that great big monitor, the flight status sign, and everyone holds their breath because their stress level is going to go off the chart to see if their flight is on time. And then it gets downright ugly. You got to drag your luggage to a computer kiosk, and they put about 10 of them in about 10 square feet. And that's where you have to get your boarding pass, and this leads to a meltdown. You ever tried to manipulate those luggage stickers? They look like hanging fly strips at the cottage. They don't adhere to the luggage handles. They get stuck in my pants. Then you have to take that luggage over and get it weighed at the scale. Boy, I'll tell you, that I got to admit, if it goes through underweight, you feel much better. But now it's time. You can't avoid it. You have to begin what I call the airport hike. And this is where you haul all that luggage, the carry-on luggage, of course, wheels that don't work, and you have to go to what they call the hurry up and wait gate, which typically is conveniently located close to where you're flying to.
I love the hurry up and wait gate. That's right. You've already made half the journey just getting to the gate, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on that airport hike, the one thing I must do is I enjoy getting on the moving sidewalk, which, of course, last time Jan said, Gary, watch when you step off, because last time you propelled yourself towards the duty-free shop. You know, I got all mishandled on there. And eventually, I think it's your compression socks that send a signal to your brain that causes you to blurt out, I can't possibly take another step. You're exhausted, and there it is, the hurry up and wait gate. Oh, I'm telling you. And the hurry up and wait gate, Mike, it includes everything passengers need to kill time in the airport. They got plastic chairs, spotty Wi-Fi, and, of course, those mandatory, very important passenger announcements. It goes like this. Attention, would the following passenger please report immediately to the gate? Passenger, thank you.
That sounded exactly like the announcements that I've heard at the hurry up and wait gate.
Yeah, last time I said to Jan, I said, did they say chalk? And she said, well, maybe, but it also sounded like Wonderpuss photogenicus. She wasn't sure. So then to help kill time at the hurry up and wait gate, there's a variety of food options, sort of, well, like what you'd see at a mall food court, but probably 3 or 4 times the price. Last fall in Vancouver, Jan said, can you get me a banana? A banana. I came back and I told her, dear, I had to dole out $5. She thought I bought the plantation. And then we're sitting back down, and then now the hurry up and wait gate. All the passengers are waiting now, and it comes on and says, "Attention, would the following passenger please report to the gate immediately?" Passenger, thank you. And I'm thinking, I said, Jan, it sounded like chalk. I wonder if there's a problem. She said, well, Gary, you can't trust your hearing. If I had to guess, it sounded more like they're paging passenger Aardvark in heat to come to the gate. Oh, I'm telling you. And last fall at the Vancouver airport, at the hurry up and wait gate, I decided to get a coffee. Clerk they gave me an empty cup, and I poured my own coffee, and I tapped the machine, and they wanted $6.85, which included a 20% tip. You're
tipping yourself at that point.
Well, that's it. So that's the only time I made a 30% tip, because it was going to me. Oh, I'm telling you. Meanwhile, got back to the hurry up and wait gate. Happened again. Attention, this is a very important announcement for all passengers on flight. We sincerely apologize and will work to resolve the problem. Thanks for your understanding. Well, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. So, Mike, in the end, when you think about it, we go an airport terminal that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to build. We're about to get onto a plane that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to build. And very important announcements before we're allowed to board the plane are made using a war surplus microphone that doesn't work.
As usual, he's not wrong. Gary Chalk is the author of the humor column Living Retired. You can find it online at livingretired.press. Make sure while you're there, you sign up for the weekly newsletter so that it gets delivered directly to your inbox. You'll have a chuckle as you read, just like you do as you listen to this show every Thursday morning at 10:30. All this talk about the places we've gone, the airports we've been to go to other parts of the world. We'll bring it back home on Living Retired right after this break and talk about some foods that are uniquely Canadian. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh, the troubles we go to just to get away from this place. The airports, the hurry up and wait gates, the overpriced foods, not to mention the magazines and the books. Gary Chalk joins us every Thursday morning at this time for Living Retired. That's the name of the humor column that Gary writes. You can find it online, livingretired.press. And make sure while you're there, you sign up for the weekly newsletter, have it delivered directly to your inbox, livingretired.press. All this trouble, Gary, to get away from here. But, you know, when we think about being here in Canada, heck, we got a lot going for us, including everything we could hope for to tempt our palates.
You're right. They're right. I here at the Living Retired World Headquarters, we worked up a list, and we came up with 11, and there's maybe more, but 11 uniquely Canadian foods. And here's the 9. Working back bacon. You like that?
Of course. I'm Canadian, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then okay. You obviously like maple syrup.
Oh, my gosh. And, how about maple syrup on your back bacon?
Ooh, better yet.
For sure.
How about maple syrup and back bacon with some Montreal smoked meat?
Oh, my gosh. You know what? I'm going to Montreal in a couple of weeks. I got to go to Schwartz's.
You got it. And also Timbits. Is there anything more Canadian food than Timbits?
I just stole one from the newsroom during that commercial break, Gary. I always go for the birthday cake Timbit.
Oh, I've seen that in the rack. I haven't tried it yet.
It's my favorite one.
Okay. And then, of course, in Montreal, you're going to have the Montreal bagels.
Sure.
And then something else. Are you a fan of tourtière?
I might be if I knew what it was.
Well, I don't really know what it is because any food that's got an accent over the E, I try to avoid. It's French-Canadian meat pie.
All right, fine. I'll eat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know you're a pizza fan. Hawaiian pizza. That's a Canadian thing from Chatham.
Right from Chatham. You got it, and I love it.
Yep. Here's the other one. Saskatchewan berry pies. You aware of that?
It sounds like road apples. I don't mean to, be tough on our friends from Saskatchewan, but no, I'm not aware of their berry pies.
Well, I don't think it's road apples. I don't think it's their potash. They say it's mild or mild blueberries.
All right. Sounds pretty good to me.
And then, of course, if you go to Ottawa, you got to have that other uniquely Canadian food, beaver tails.
Absolutely.
All this to say, though, that the true Canadian foods come down to two.
Okay.
Butter tarts.
Absolutely. As long, Gary, and I know you know this, they do not have raisins.
I know, and I'm the opposite. I love my raisins. But, butter tarts, they're as Canadian as hockey. Actually, they're better, because there's not a single Canadian missing their front teeth from eating a butter tart.
It's a very good point.
That's good. And also butter tarts, as I say, they're so Canadian. They go back to that time in our history that what we call the pioneer days. If you're talking to your grandchildren, they don't understand what pioneers days. So just tell them it was the pre-TikTok era. That's where the butter tarts go back to.
Pre-TikTok. I got it.
You got it. And also, sticking with the butter tarts, Canadians are eating more butter tarts around this time of year because the long hockey season is mercifully over. So to fill the void of watching gambling commercials on television ad nauseum, interspersed by a hockey game, residents of small towns in touristy areas all across Canada are filling their tart trays and screaming, "Let's get this tart party tarted."
So it's not the two seasons in Canada, hockey and construction. It's hockey and butter tart eating seasons.
Yeah, you're talking my language,
All
Mike.
right, I like it.
Yep, you can take your pick. There's butter tart festivals. There's butter tart bake-offs. There's butter tart cornhole. Well, I guess I made that one up.
Okay, what? I would eat a butter tart while playing cornhole for sure.
Well, would you eat a butter tart if you were playing lawn darts?
Sure, why not?
Okay, but here in Ontario, we have, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Mike, the Butter Tart Trail. It's a real treat. And what this Butter Tart Trail is if you're looking for an excursion for the family, it encourages mums and dads to buckle the kids up in the car seats in the minivan and spend the weekend maneuvering gravel roads, collecting stone chips all over your vehicle, and sampling award-winning butter tarts.
It's a perfect idea.
It is. And after suffering through a weekend of your kids being on a 48-hour sugar high, you finally vow to never, never, never come back to the Butter Tart Trail, at least bringing the kids.
That's right. Just do it adults only.
That's right. And once home, the minivan, it's just a canvas of blobs of sticky brown sugar, raisins. They're smeared all over the car windows, the upholstery, under the arm ribs from the kids. And they pull into the driveway, and Mom and Dad trade barbs. Whose great idea was this anyway?
That's going to be tough to clean up for sure.
You got it.
Yeah.
And the winners, of course, are the sugar industry, dentists, and divorce lawyers. So that's the butter tart. Now, the other item that tied was Nanaimo bars. You like them?
Not really. There's a little bit of coconut in there, and I'm not a fan, Gary.
Okay. Well, they're sort of a well. What they are, as I understand it, is three layers. There's a graham cracker crumb base, a custard flavored filling, and some sort of a chocolate topping. But here's the thing: you don't bake Nanaimo bars. And this is why we like making Nanaimo bars of the Chalk household. You don't need to bake them. Every time we turn the oven on, it sets off our smoke alarm, and I end up out in the hallway frantically waving a dish towel at the ceiling. So, and this is why two weeks ago, I was diagnosed with a torn rotator cuff injury, all because of baking. And Nanaimo bars, I did some looking into it. They're named after where they were first made,
yes,
which is Nanaimo, British Columbia. And Nanaimo, in case you don't know, is also famous for being the bathtub racing capital of the world. Now, here's the thing. Nanaimo bars are not baked, whereas the seemingly half-baked politicians came up with bathtub racing to attract tourists to their city.
My gosh, I can't even imagine bathtub racing.
Oh, I can't imagine. And if you ask a resident of Nanaimo, and did you know that if you live in Nanaimo, you're a Nanaimo white?
You know what? I'll take your word for it.
please do. I got to think they would pick Nanaimo bars over being known as the bathtub racing capital. Least. And the other thing is, Nanaimo bars, they're delicious. M&M Foods in Kitchener, your way, they make great frozen Nanaimo bars.
I'll take your word for that, too. I just haven't been able to acquire the taste. Maybe I should try.
Well, here's another acquired taste.
Okay.
This was one other food that the living retired interns looked into. Popular. It's not totally Canadian, but it is growing significantly in the country, they say. According to tofu aficionados, they say tofu does not have any taste. Well, you know what, Mike? Motor oil also has no taste, but we don't eat it.
Oh, Gary, I got to leave you on that note, but as always, thanks for the laughs.
Hey, great to join you, and bye to you, Mike.
Gary Chalk, the author of the humor column Living Retired. You can find it online, livingretired.press. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter. Have that column delivered directly to your inbox, livingretired.press. And all that talk about butter tarts. Quick reminder for you, for the Love of Butter Tarts Festival, Elmira, this weekend, 10 till 4 at the Woolwich Memorial Rec Complex. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It used to be, emphasis on used to be, a very popular picnic and leisure stop along the good old Galt, Preston, and Hespeler electric railway line between Preston and Hespeler. Imagine that, rail lines in this community. What? Now it's the subject of a Throwback Thursday conversation, which we will get to right after this update from the 570 News Center. Where was this once popular spot, and how are we commemorating it today? That story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It was once a very popular picnic and leisure spot, just a place to go and relax along, of course, the rail line, because there used to be rail in this community that serviced this community. Don't get me started on rail and how much it has fallen off the rails, if you'll forgive that, over the decades. But we're looking back at this once popular area, and we're looking back more than a century. But thanks to the Waterloo Historical Society, we now know, at least we're pretty sure, where the entrance to this park used to be. From the Waterloo Historical Society, we're joined on the show this morning. The chair of the Plaques Committee, Warren Stoke, joins the program. Mr. Stoke, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Farwell. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How about yourself?
We're doing fine on this great summer day.
It is a beautiful one. As we get into this story, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but is it Idlewild Park? Is that what it had been named?
Yes.
Okay, Idlewild. So can you share some of the history of this area with us? What made it significant?
Well, it's the fact that at that time, Preston and Hespeler were part of Block 2 of Waterloo Township of the Haldeman Land Grant. And so these were small villages in town. Preston was a town, Hespeler was a village. There was a rail line called the Galt Preston, or the Hespeler-Preston Electric Railroad that went through that area, as you said on the Tremo, to give people a chance for transportation. And so they started this park along the Speed River in the 1890s, and people would come out by the train load, and they would stop along the rail line. If you walk the Mill Run Trail from Beaverdale Road to Speedsville Avenue in Cambridge, right along the trail, and that's where we have placed the marker, the train would stop, and people would get off and go picnicking and whatever activities they were doing in the park. And then the train coming home late in the afternoon would pick them up and take them back to their places. So it served both Preston and Hespeler at the time.
The placement of this marker is the part of the story, one of the parts that really intrigues me, because as you said, this goes back the park itself, Idlewild Park, to the 1890s. So we're 130 plus years ago here. How did you go about determining what used to be the entrance to this park? Because 130 years later, I'm sure it looks much different today.
Oh, it does. And the Speed River is part of the Canadian Heritage River, Grand River system. It's one of the main tributaries. And but we have people in the Waterloo Historical Society, which has been in existence since 1912. And it was started by W.H. Breithaupt, Mabel Dunham, the librarian at the Old Berlin Library, and other folks who wanted, their mandate was to preserve the local history of then Waterloo County. And so they formed the Waterloo Historical Society. And over the years, the society has recognized different places. They have an annual volume that comes out every spring, and now since 1913 consecutively. It's a major undertaking. But the park then was located. We have a parks committee, of which I happen to be the chair, and I'm not the most important person on the committee. The people who are on the committee, like Ray Ruddy from Preston, he's Mr. History in Preston. He has done a lot of research, and he's the one that came up with the suggestion that we have the park. I have flagged the park at the entranceway, and he's got maps that he used, original maps as well. He's a collector of historical things, and so we worked hard to get this up. It's taken us about 6 years to get permissions from the GRC, the City of Cambridge, and that kind of thing.
So, what does the plaque tell us, and where are we going to find it?
Well, if you walk from Beaverdale Road, which is the best place to park, walk the Mill Run Trail about a kilometer in. You cross underneath a hydro power line, and short distance beyond that before you get to the 401 highway. And there's a storyboard. This is our first storyboard park. And by the way, the Waterloo Historical Society Plaques Committee is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, so it's a special year for us. But it's about a kilometer in from Beaverdale Road, and it's right facing towards the river, and it's got lots of information about, and really Ray is the one to talk to because he has done the history of this particular plaque. But the formation of the park, who used the park, and then when it went out of existence, because of the advent of the automobile, people had more freedom to travel further beyond their communities, obviously. And so the rail function died a slow death.
I know the kind of work that Ray put into this, at least through my reading on the story. I mean, this goes back to the early part of this century. So, a couple of decades now, metal detectors involved, the maps that you already mentioned, and just to determine this is pretty close to, if not the exact location of what used to be the entrance.
But Ray was very, very good. He said, Warren, over there's a section of lawn, like regular lawn in a wooded area. And I said, so? He said, that's where the park entrance was. And if you look at the map that he also has, he's right on the banks of the Speed River. And there's a couple of islands in there. I would have loved to have visited that park in the past, but so not to be. The park no longer exists as a park. We wanted to recognize its significance along the Speed River.
And there's no question it was significant. You told that story so well with that resting spot, that area along that rail line. And in order to get to this point, Mr. Stout, with the plaque now there commemorating where the entrance to this park used to be and all that work that Ray put into it, you as a group at the Waterloo Historical Society, there must be some exhilaration, some thrill that comes with kind of solving the mystery here.
That's right. And we're always looking for new suggestions. Our first plaque was put up in 1925 on First Mennonite Church on King Street East. Okay, we've had 22 other plaques have followed. By the way, 7 of them are in Cambridge, but we represent the entire region of Waterloo as the Waterloo Historical Society, not just the city of Waterloo. And so we've got them right across the region. And we're always looking. Again, they cost more money as we get more into technology, but we're looking for sponsorships as well.
That First Mennonite Church, is that King and Sterling area?
In your old neighborhood, bud.
You would know. You would know. Oh, man, it's so much fun for me. I love the work that you do through the society, and really appreciate your time on the show this morning.
Now, we're a team, and we work hard. Sandy Parks has had experience as a heritage planner, and she's now retired, but she brings a wealth of information on how to organize and research and what to put on the plaques. We have Debbie Kretsch. We have Harold Russell are the other members of the plaques committee. But it's fun. It's fun to research our history, because if we don't know our history, we're going to be in trouble in the future.
You're darn right about that.
And people have already stopped. The plaque's been up for 2 months, and people are already stopping along the way to get off their bikes and look at the plaque. It's fairly large.
It's exactly the way it should work.
It is. Yeah. Exactly right.
Good stuff. Mr. Stouck, thank you very much for joining the show this morning.
My pleasure, Mike, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Warren Stouck, the chair of the Plaques Committee with the Waterloo Historical Society. How did he know that the church that I referenced was in the old neighborhood? And why is he Mr. Stouck? There's a story behind that story, and I'll get into it right after this quick timeout. I love this town is all I can say. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You know that one of the hallmarks of this show is transparency. I can't say the same thing for our regional government when it comes to sharing the data from speed cameras. I wish I could. But on this show, you're going to get the straight goods every time. So we just had on the show a guest from the Waterloo Historical Society who chairs the Plaques Committee. His name is Warren Stouck, but to me, he will always and forever be Mr. Stouck. I can't call him anything but Mr. Stouck, despite knowing that his name is Warren. Quickly, and then I'll come back to the story. The plaque that has been erected on the Mill Run Trail, just off Beaverdale Road as you head onto the trail from there, marks what used to be the entrance to Idlewild Park, which more than a century ago was a very popular resting spot along a rail line that actually served us as people in this community getting from Preston to Hespeler. Imagine that back in the day. Anyway, you should check it out. Great little notation of our local history. But Mr. Stouck, you see, just so happened to be my next door neighbor growing up. We moved in the summer of 1977 to the house where my parents still live today. I was 6 years old, just about to enter grade 1 over at St. Anne's School. And next door, 2 young kids, same age as some of the Farwell family brood, Kathy and Cameron, were the kids next door, and Cam and I became friends because that's what you did in the neighborhood back in the day. And Mr. Stouck, Warren Stouck, the father, his delightful wife, Martha, teachers, and know their history. They love their history, their geography, and Mr. Stouck is now in a perfect spot with the Waterloo Historical Society. But that's why when I have a guest like Mr. Stouck, I can't, it's not going to be Warren to me. He always has been and forever will be Mr. Stouck. You hang around this town long enough. So I admit to, I don't know, the advantages, I guess, that I have, because you get to know some people, they get to know you. You can call in favors when you need guests. That wasn't the case today. I really wanted to share this story, but yeah, you stick around long enough and you start to get to know people. And maybe, just maybe, because of the Farwell family mafia, as I like to refer to it, that, you know, kind of has some influence in places in this town. Not because of me, because of the Farwells that have actually done good things in this community. But there are a number of them who have asked to participate in the listeners list that we're putting together. And this just started spontaneously, and I feel a little bit of guilt. Like, I don't think maybe I should just put all the Farwells under one number. But I'm adding to the list my cousin Bubba, who asked for a specific number and will be granted number 95 if we ever count that high. And my Aunt Joyce, who also asked, because she is a regular and faithful listener. It's kind of like counting your mom, though, if you start counting family on the list. But I just want you to know, those two names have been added. Bubba gets a spot. Aunt Joyce gets a spot on the listeners list. I'm not trying to fill it unfairly here with just Farwell family members. Everybody else might just get under one lump when it comes to a name on the listener list. But tell you what, we're up into the mid-70s now. This all started at 46. We thought, could we possibly fill numbers 1 through 46? And we did that on the first day back from holidays this week. I couldn't believe it. So now we're into the mid-70s, and I'm starting to feel kind of greedy, to be honest with you. I mean, surely to goodness, especially as we have people claiming numbers. We've already got 3 numbers claimed in the 90s. We don't have a whole lot more to go to get to 100, right? Wouldn't that be a cool list? The 100 listeners of the Mike Farwell Show. If you want to be included on the list, all you have to do is be a loyal listener to the show. Give us a call or send me an email, mike@570news.com. We would be more than happy to welcome you into the fold and put your name officially on the listeners list of the Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This month is Disability Pride Month, and CJ Jansen is an outspoken advocate for members of our community who are disabled. CJ has also got a show coming up tonight that highlights what is possible even for people who are disabled. CJ, what's the significance of Disability Pride Month?
Disability Pride Month started in the U.S. in 1990 as part of turned this into a law that people with disabilities need to be included in the world. Unfortunately, it took Canada and the rest of the world a little bit longer. It only came into existence for us in 2023. Because of that, we're a little bit slower in some ways in catching up to celebrating people with disabilities. I don't know if the name is the best in the world, Disability Pride Month. I'm not really proud that I'm disabled, but I am certainly not ashamed of being disabled. And I think that's really important to understand the difference, because people with disabilities, there's over 2.1 billion people in the world who identify as being disabled. And I wanted to make sure that our community took time to recognize our own amazing talent in the region of Waterloo.
Disabilities Unleashed. It comes up on Thursday, the 24th of July at 7 o'clock. What do we need to know about the event?
Oh, I can't wait to tell you. Okay, so Disabilities Unleashed is a joyful, inclusive variety show. And as you said, it's happening on July 24th at Fairview Seniors Community in their second floor auditorium. They're located at 515 Langs Drive in Cambridge, and this is all part of the Disability Pride Month celebrations. This event is about celebrating and elevating the talents of people with apparent and non-apparent disabilities through music, singing, and the spoken word. We've also got this artisan and vendor sale before the show, featuring artists, authors, crafters, and disability-focused vendors. So please, come early. The doors are going to open from like 6 to 7 for the artisan shop. And then the show itself is going to start at 7 p.m. Well, semi-sharp.
CJ, it sounds amazing, and I truly appreciate your advocacy. Thank you very much for doing this.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
CJ Jansen. Make sure to check out cjjansen.com for details and tickets to Disabilities Unleashed. The doors open at 6 this evening for that artisan market, and the show getting underway just around 7 as we celebrate Disability Pride Month here in our community. All right, your 11:30 update from the 570 News Center is coming up. And then, did you hear what Billy Joel did while driving through the streets of New York the other day? He shared it on his social media. We'll share it with you ourselves after this update from the 570 News Center. And then I want to hear your stories about encounters with celebrities, your brushes with fame on the flip side coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We like to keep you on your toes here on this show. Mix things up. It's not all politics, trade talks, heavy stuff. Every Thursday morning, 11:30, we take a break from the heavier stuff, have a little fun with a segment we call The Flip Side. And I was inspired by what happened in New York the other day to hear your similar stories on The Flip Side here today. If you missed it, this is what happened on the streets of New York when, well, you know what? I'll let you. Billy Joel, yes, that Billy Joel, posted this on his own social media.
Okay, next time. Oh, nice. You see, we are playing you, man. Can I take a picture with you, please? Hey, man, big fan.
So much I love about that. We are playing you, man. That is the driver, if you will, the rider of a pedicab, you know, the bicycle with the cart on the back that you can take as you tour around New York City. And this particular pedicab and its driver, was playing New York State of Mind, one of Billy Joel's many classic songs, when it just so happened that Billy Joel himself, in the back of an SUV, was driving along the same street. He hears his song being played on the pedicab. So he puts down the window and makes sure he greets the rider of that cab and the passengers. There were two ladies in the back in that cart being pulled by the bicycle. We're playing you, man. Hey, can I get a picture? There was a little handshake as the rider reached out to grab Billy's hand, and he returned the handshake. And then the other thing I love about it is towards the end of that clip you just heard, one of the women asked how Billy Joel was feeling.
Okay, next time. Oh, nice. You see, we are playing you, man. Can I take a picture with you, please? Hey, man, big fan.
We love you. How are you feeling? Of course, Billy Joel has had some health concerns that caused him to cancel the remainder of his shows this year on the tour that he was in the midst of. But he says he's doing pretty well overall. What struck me about this is the randomness of it. And, of course, it is the sort of thing that doesn't happen every day. Maybe just like the time you had that celebrity encounter. Bonus points if the celebrity approached you. It's usually the other way around, isn't it? We go up to them when we spot them. But I thought this was a cool story, and I thought it might get some stories from you on the flip side today. Tell us about your celebrity encounter, that brush you had with fame. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Let's get to the phones. George, double O George. Good morning.
That's right. That's right. Mike, yeah, you're right on. It's usually us approaching them, and that was my case too. Back in 1997, I got to coach like 12 and 13-year-olds for soccer, and they told me, your assistant coach is going to be Rick Emmett. I'm thinking, Rick Emmett? Is this the Rick Emmett from Triumph? And sure enough, it was. What a great summer, Mike. I got to talk to him all that summer about his Triumph days and all the great songs they released, and great memories thinking back about getting to know him. And great guy, too. If anybody out there is a Triumph fan, I think Mark is, one of your listeners. Great all-around guy.
Did he have the magic power as a soccer coach, George?
The reason he did, he reminded me of Rod Stewart. You know how Rod Stewart's a good soccer player? I don't know if you knew that or not.
Absolutely.
And he's the same way. He's an avid soccer player. The only reason I was the head coach and he was the assistant coach because he couldn't commit for every weekend because he'd be away. So I thought, great, sure, I'll be the head coach and tell Rick Emmett what to do for sure.
I love it. Great story. Thanks, George. Appreciate it. 00 George, he wanted to pick his own number. So technically, I guess we're up to 76 people on our listeners list because Mary was at number 1 before George said, I like the number that Clark Griswold was wearing on the back of his Chicago Blackhawks jersey in the movie Christmas Vacation. So he is now 00 George on our listeners list. From one on the list to another, Marino number 66, Mario Lemieux. Good morning.
Oh, I'll give you a pass on one, but that's it, Mario.
What? No, you're number 66, Mario.
Yeah, I know, but we had a deal.
I'm sorry. You are Marino. Yes, I was just making reference to the number being Mario Lemieux's number.
All right, you win, buddy.
I will not do it again. I promise.
Many years ago, there was a film being filmed here in Guelph, and I was working security at the site. And it was raining, and I was standing there. This big limo pulls up, and Natasha Richardson gets out of the limo, and she comes over, and she introduces herself and greets me and says, "Thank you for doing security here." And it was just incredible. And that's Liam Neeson's past wife. She passed away. But it was just she just got out of the limo, come over and shook my hand and said thank you. It was just incredible.
Isn't it a great thing when somebody that you know from movies, for example, just show up like regular people?
Yeah, and she was very really nice and just very down to earth.
Marino, appreciate it, and thanks for being one of our loyal listeners.
All the time. Thanks, Mike.
Enjoy your day. When Marino emailed yesterday or 2 days back to get on the list, and he ended up with number 66, he said, that's fine by me. It's Mario Lemieux's number. So I had joked, if you take the N out of his name, Marino, he becomes Mario. I wasn't trying to throw shade. I wouldn't do that to you, you loyal listener, you. But Marino, number 66 on our listeners list. And, that Natasha Richardson story and the, walking up and just introducing herself, thanks for doing security for this film shoot we're having. It always reminds me of a story that one of my best buddies was sharing with me. His wife had gone through some health challenges, and they were on the other end of it at this big gala fundraiser. And Steve Yzerman, the legendary Detroit Red Wing captain, winner of Stanley Cups, was involved in this fundraiser. And through the course of the evening and the mingling, they got to meet Steve Yzerman. And when they did, and it was kind of a group and they were talking to the doctors, and then, oh, by the way, this is Steve Yzerman. He just reaches his hand out to shake and says, "Hi, I'm Steve." As if my buddy, who's a huge hockey fan, had no idea, right? Like, you are Steve Yzerman. I know who you are. But he was just hey, I'm Steve. No big deal. Just here hanging out. Don't worry about the Stanley Cup rings on my fingers. I'm not sure he was wearing them, but you get the point. My buddy clearly knew who he was, but he's just going to be Steve that night. Dennis, what was your celebrity encounter?
Well, I've had a few, but I got to share one buddy of mine because it's too good, and it's an example of a celeb showing up. I grew up in Winnipeg, and for a time, Neil Young lived across the street.
Oh, my gosh.
From me, and of course, he mentioned it in his book. So my buddy from high school, who lives in the house now, regularly gets people banging on the door. So one day, he's in the backyard, and his wife came around and said, "Geez, there's a guy at the front door, and he's insisting on seeing the place. He's a rubby-looking guy." So John went around, and it was Bob Dylan.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan trying to get into Neil Young's house.
Yeah, I guess he had nothing better to do while he was at a concert in Winnipeg.
I guess not. Dennis, thanks for the story. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Good to hear from you today. I love those random stories. You know what that reminds me of? Neil Young's house across the street. Bob Segarini. If you're a radio geek like me, you might remember the name. And he used to do, Segarini was really well connected in the music industry, and he did a show on Q107 way back in the day. It was an evening show. And because of his connections in the music industry, he had so many stories. And I'm pretty sure this was Davy Jones with the Monkees. I could be mistaken on who it was. Doesn't matter that much. But Segarini's living in L.A. at the time. And Davy Jones or Mickey Dolenz, one of the Monkees, I'm almost certain, was living across the street and was building a helicopter in the garage. Just a little mini, for a one-person thing. But just the way Segarini had told that story, living across the street, sees the work going on, walks over, hey, Hey, Davy Jones, what are you doing? Well, I'm building a helicopter. I don't know. In between gigs with the Monkees, going to build a helicopter in the garage, I guess. Grant, what was your celebrity encounter?
Well, the center in the square at a contest where Jim Belushi was coming to perform. He was doing improv. Improv wasn't the greatest on him, but so the deal was if you bought a ticket, you could meet him. Well, I was going in between my home and my mom's home, and they said, the prize has been given out. No. You have to let me see him. All right, we'll talk to him. And all right. He said, yeah, you can come back afterwards, after the show, and meet him. And yeah, I could barely say anything.
You got all tongue-tied because he's so famous.
Yeah, and I said, you know what? I like your show. What about Jim? Oh, I know why you like it, because of the girls, right?
Oh my gosh, of course. You know, that was him doing some improv. Oh, I could tell a story. I love improv. Like, hats off to those of you who do it so well. We used to have a little troupe around here, Tote, right? Theater on the Edge. And they just did local small theater stuff, improv. I love me some good improv. Wish I could do it. Joanne, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. I have a note here on my screen that says you're a first-time caller.
I am, yeah. I listen to you daily in the morning on my way to school, and I just finished class, and I'm on my way home, and I'm listening to you again. That's when I listen to you, and I love your show. I really do. I
love that you love the show and that you're calling in for the first time. Joanne, thank you. Welcome to the show.
You're welcome. Okay, so I like a couple of people. I've met, actually, quite a few celebrities in my time. I lived in BC for a really long time before moving back to Ontario in 2017. And in the late 90s into the early 2000s, I worked for Roots Canada at their flagship store in downtown Vancouver. So we got a lot of celebrities in through there when they were in shooting something or on vacation. So the way Roots was set up, when you walk into the main part of the store, off to the left, there was like a little ramp that went up to the children's section and where the sweatshirts were. And I predominantly worked in the children's area of Roots. And I had my back turned one day, which we weren't supposed to do, but I did. And I heard some footsteps coming up the ramp. And I turned to say hello to the customer. I saw who it was. I turned back around. I started bawling my head off. And I turned around and looked at her. She saw me crying, and I said, I love you so much. She took me in her arms and held me and said, thank you so much. It was Margot Kidder.
Oh, my gosh.
And, oh, my God. I am a huge Superman fan, and I have other stories, which maybe one day I'll tell you. But when I saw her, I lost my mind. I love her so much.
You've got me, but who's got you?
I don't, nobody. I'm in the car by myself, bro. And she was celebrating the birth of her first grandchild. Her daughter had her first child, so she was getting some stuff, and I will never, ever forget that. So, so of course when she passed, I was devastated. And, I met a lot of people through that store. A lot. Like, let me tell you, big people.
Good Canadian gal right there, taking you into her arms because you were so overwhelmed meeting her. I love it.
I was so overwhelmed. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Anyway, I just wanted to quickly share that with you.
Thank you, Joanne. And anytime you want to dish the rest of that dirt, our phone lines are always open, okay? Keep those stories coming. All right.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks for being a first-time caller on the show.
Yes!
We love our first-time callers on the show, and Margot Kidder will always be Lois Lane, falling from that building, and Superman swoops in and says, don't worry, miss, I've got you. You've got me, but who's got you? And did you know, Annie Kidder, People for Education, been a guest on this show multiple times, Margot Kidder's sister. Naturally, kidder and kidder. I wouldn't kid you about this stuff. The flip side and your celebrity encounters continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. So Billy Joel was cruising around Manhattan when the vehicle he was in passed a pedicab, and that cab was blaring the tune New York State of Mind, which, of course, is a Billy Joel song. And Billy couldn't help himself, put down the window of the vehicle he was being driven around in and said hi to the driver of that pedicab and the two women in the back. And it just makes me... How cool is that? Usually our celebrity encounters involve us approaching them. In this case, the celebrity approached the New Yorkers, if you will. But I'm asking you on the flip side today, your encounters with celebrities. Tell us about those brushes with fame. Back to the phones. Ernie, good morning.
Hey, buddy, I got two quick ones. I've shared the one when I first met Dougie when I snuck into the odd the last time you had this segment on.
Yeah.
But, and I don't recommend, there you go, Mike, I'm sticking up for you. But he was doing a grand opening in Air, just down the road at a dentist. So Michelle and I went down, and I've met him like 8 or 9 times, but obviously he's one of my heroes as a kid. And so he's signing a couple of things for us, and I'm talking to him because he recognizes me at that point already because I've met him so many times. And he goes, "You want something, kid?" And I'm like, "Sure." Well, you didn't call me kid. And he goes, "Try this on." He threw me a Stanley Cup ring from the Flames, and then he threw me his Hall of Fame ring. So as he was signing my things, there's me with a picture with me having his rings on. And I'm just like, that was just so cool. Michelle and I were on the front page of the Air Express, so that was kind of pretty neat with the picture of Dougie with me having his rings on. So
that's fantastic. Cool. You mean he didn't win a Stanley Cup with the Leafs? I could have sworn he did.
I know, Mike. I'll be really quick with this next listen. We'll give you a good laugh. I was lucky enough to get box seats 2 years ago in Toronto, and Shanny popped his head in. I'm like, well, I'll take a quick picture. So I chased him down and said, "Do you mind if I get a quick selfie with you?" And he's like, "You know what? Let's hurry it up." I said, so we took the picture, and I said, "Thanks." And I go, "I really didn't want to have to do or go Rick Vibe on you. What you did to Rick Vibe when he turned you down for an autograph as a kid." So I don't know if you know that story, but he had a good laugh with that.
Well done, Ernie. Well done. Some hockey royalty right there for sure. Although I was happy to see Brendan Shanahan leave town as the Leafs president. As a player, I'll take him. I didn't do much for me as an executive. Brock, good morning.
Hey, it's your fill-in guy. Do you?
Hey, substitute teacher. What?
No,
count? No. What? I count what? I count. You know what I'm counting is listeners.
Well, I know, but I'm saying I think you count as like a famous person.
No, settle down.
And I've sat in your seat.
You have sat in this seat, and you're going to sit in it again soon.
I am. Listen, here's my story. Big fan of the Trailer Park Boys. About 10 years ago, we were at an indoor pool in Halifax, and I spot in the pool Randy from the Trailer Park Boys. Now, he's there with his wife and kids, and I'm like, I got to go meet Randy from the Trailer Park Boys. And my wife's like, leave him alone. He's having a moment with his family. And you know me. I started to swim away from my wife and swam across the pool, made it to where Randy was, and he was just standing on the edge of the pool. And if you know anything about Randy, he's most often shirtless.
Yep.
Sure enough, he's in the pool, and the same thing. So I climb the ladder, and I walk by him, and I say, "Hey, don't you ever wear a shirt?" And he's like, "That's a good one." So that's my brush with fame right there.
I love it, Brock, and thanks for filling in when I'm not here.
Anytime. And if I can get a number, I'll take a number, whatever number you got. I'm happy to take. I don't know if that counts, though, because, isn't that a little...
Well, I know.
Nepo baby? Nepo baby?
I felt like that when I put my cousin and my aunt on the list, too. Like, I don't know. Like, am I scraping the bottom of the barrel, Brock? You know what? I'm going to put you down at number 76 because that's the number we're at. If somebody wants to say Brock doesn't count, we'll take you off.
Anytime. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. I listen to Brock, too, when he hosts Ask the Experts on the weekends here on 570 News Radio. So, I mean, he listens. He listens regularly. He participates in the show. Heck, he guest hosts the show. Surely he counts on our list of listeners, doesn't he? This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'll be honest with you, because it's the only way I know how to be. I'm not much of a professional wrestling guy. I kind of outgrew it as a wee lad. Hey, if it still floats your boat, you do you. But even though I'm not much of a wrestling guy, I'm not so naive as to not know Hulk Hogan, or should I say, not have known Hulk Hogan. Just getting word that the wrestling icon, and well beyond the squared circle, if you will, has passed away at the age of 71, according to TMZ. There you go, Hulk Hogan. Wow, and that's 71. It's not long enough, at least from where I'm sitting. All right, we're going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then it's the Talkback Hour, open phone lines, so we can hear from you on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I mean, I don't follow wrestling anymore, but Hulk Hogan was around long enough that I remember him. Hulkamaniacs, baby, ripping the shirt all the time. I was way back in the day because, again, as a kid, I certainly did follow the wrestling. Nature Boy Ric Flair was my guy, and I got the chance later in my life, thanks to this career, to interview the Nature Boy, and he gave me a personalized whoo when I got to do that, and it was pretty cool. My inner wrestling fan came out. Hulk Hogan dead at the age of 71, and just listening to that update with Matt Hutchison, the Blue Jays and the Tigers, Comerica Park, what a beautiful ballpark. Shout out to my buddy Ron, who is on his way down to Detroit to take in that game tonight. He's going the right way on the 401, that is for sure. You don't want to go east to Toronto. Go west, young man. Ronnie, keep the rubber side down out there. Have a safe trip, and go Jays, go. It is the Talkback Hour, where basically anything goes, within reason. We always keep it between the lines. Phone lines open at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's go and start with DJ. Good afternoon, DJ.
Yeah, thanks. I want to weigh in on the earlier discussion on electric vehicles.
By all means.
I actually have a request for you to help us out with maybe getting some information from your friends and contacts at City Hall. Basically, there's no chance that you will ever get a nice vehicle out of my hands. It just is not going to happen for any serious driving. But running around town's a different thing. And last year, I was at Costco up in Waterloo, and there were some sweet-looking vehicles they were showcasing, golf carts, 2, 4, and 6-seaters with headlights and turn signals and seatbelts, the whole 9 yards. And the company that was sort of promoting them was saying, well, it's going to be up to the local municipality to determine whether these are allowed. Clearly, they're not going to be allowed on the 401 or any major highway, but the question for you maybe to follow up is, I'd be very interested in looking at one of these for running around town. And what the heck are the municipal people thinking these days about such vehicles? Keeping in mind that we have all other manner of vehicles, including horse and buggy, running around here. Anyway, your thoughts?
Do you want to live in a retirement community already, DJ? Isn't that what they do in Florida? Roll around in golf?
They do in some of the smaller places. We're small. There's many places you only drive 30 kilometers an hour. Yeah. And by the way, these golf carts were a fraction of the cost of the numbers that you guys were throwing around earlier today.
Sure. Yeah, 20,000 was the affordable side of things.
Yeah, though these were like 10, 12, and obviously if you get some accessories like a cover for winter, it's going to go up. But I'm serious. For running around town, groceries, and that would make a lot of sense to me.
You know what? You might be onto something, DJ, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I will certainly make some inquiries. And listen, I've got to get to some other callers, but stick around because I've got a story. They might already be on the road, and I don't know if it's legal or not, but I saw one the other day, something similar. So I'll share that coming up too. Yeah, thanks, DJ. Appreciate you. It's a really interesting thought. Personally, don't love it. And just as I was speaking about those numbers that DJ referenced, we were talking about earlier with electric vehicles. It was actually in the $30,000 to $45,000 range. That's what we look at as quote unquote affordable vehicles or lower end on the price scale. That's what our guest shared earlier. Could not get one for even $20,000. So he said. So I hear where DJ is coming from. I've got some thoughts on this, and I will get to that story, but it's your hour. We want to hear you talking back during Talkback. Preston Paul, number 45. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I know you're doing well. Your pet peeve at the beginning of the show today is one of my pet peeves. People with their earplugs, not paying attention, looking on their phone. That's not people with animals, Mike. I've seen people walk by my house here. I got a child in a stroller, and they've got their face in the phone, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy, all the way.
Like, I don't understand why you can't take the time out to teach your child, your animal, pay attention for that short amount of time that you're going to be out. You know, heaven forbid you're away from your phone. You know, it's just, that drives me crazy. So, anyways.
Appreciate the support for the argument, my friend.
All right. You have a good one, Mike.
You too, Paul. Preston Paul on the listener list at number 45. Here's the way I see it. And I wasn't even, when I brought this up earlier, I called it my newest pet peeve, an emphasis on the pet, because I see so many people walking their dogs with their noses in the screens of their phone. And I can't for the life of me understand why you want to do that while you're out there with another living creature. I know, look, I talk to Rosie the pandemic pup all the time. I know she can't talk back, but I do know that she understands. She picks up the energy that I'm delivering. I'm connected to her. As far as I'm concerned, walking your dog while looking at your cell phone is the same as sitting at the dinner table with your cell phone. You are around other living creatures. Be present with them. I was thinking about it less from the safety standpoint. I mean, you could trip. You might miss something that your dog does and yank them when you shouldn't or something like that. There's that aspect of it. But I'm strictly thinking of, and here's where I've landed. I think you have to be old enough to have lived through a time where these devices weren't everywhere to feel this way. Just, if you're going to walk the dog, walk the dog. As simple as that. Whoever you're texting or what, like, you don't need the phone. You can walk the dog. Just walk the dog. Enjoy the outdoors, the sounds, the smells, the feel in this beautiful weather. Just do it. And then when you go home, you can take more time for your phone. Do what you're doing. You don't need all the time with the ding-dang phones. It's starting to drive me bananas. Talkback continues here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Talkback Hour is your daily opportunity to do just that. From noon until 1 every day, we open the phone lines so you can talk back. It can be in reference to something we discussed on the show already today or something new entirely that you think we need to know about. Back to the phones. Kyle, good afternoon, number 6.
Woo! That's both for Ric Flair and for the Toronto Blue Jays last night.
Perfect.
I would like to just reiterate on the somebody was talking about electric cars and he wants to get around town. I bought an electric scooter and it's fantastic.
Shut up.
It's $200.
You're such a little millennial, aren't you? Oh, hey, look at me on my electric scooter. Oh, look at me. I'm so cool. Do you carry a latte with you? A green tea chai latte?
I don't shop at Starbucks.
Oh,
it's too expensive for my taste.
Okay.
I used to have a GoPed. Do you remember GoPeds? They were big in the 90s. So they were electric. They were actually gas-powered scooters that had the weed whacker engine on them, and they were terrible, overstressed, underpowered, two-stroke. The neighbors would look at you like no tomorrow. And I'm actually looking at getting an electric bike because in that way I can go shopping with Enlistable. And then I can still go around and go pick up the local produce at some of the farms around town. So I'm just going to say, Mike, you're missing out. Get one. They're fun. 30 kilometers an hour, yes, is the max. But I get 30 kilometers of driving within an hour. And the only thing I have to do when I get home is just plug it in. I have to wait for the next day. So that's my say. But I would never get rid of like my gas-powered vehicles because I do love the sound of a of a good V8 or a V10 or even a V12, right? So I just want to say, get a bike. Some of those bikes do like 200 kilometers on a charge. So you can't go wrong with that. Anyways, thanks, Mike. Have a good day. And I'm going to go get a green tea latte for you now. Thanks a lot, man.
Okay, buddy. Good. Enjoy it. Don't choke on it. This is the thing. If I'm going to get a bike, I'm going to get a bike I can pedal. Like, otherwise, you're not biking. You're just riding a thing that moves along at a pace. 30K on those electric scooters. Are you kidding me? You've seen them. I've seen them zipping down streets. They're silent. They're fast. You don't need a license to operate one. And safety equipment. I don't need no stinking safety equipment. I'm having a hard time with it. I will just say, and I'll get to the story that DJ reminded me of in a moment when he called earlier. But what we need then is more regulation before we keep moving forward with more and more of these vehicles. I know. Most of the time, I want government to get out of my life and certainly out of my pocket. But in this case, anyway, we'll get there. Jersey Bill, number 12. Good afternoon.
Oh, 1 second while I take you off speaker here. There we go. Oop, did I get that? No, there it is. Yes, hi there. Just outside in the heat doing some yard work. Hello?
Don't overdo it.
Oh, okay, no, I'm not. I'm actually, I tend to be acclimatized more for the heat than the cold. So, from my years down in Texas when it was beastly hot. Listen, I've talked years ago about meeting Joe Biden, and I wouldn't bring that up again, except for the fact that instead of a nice, relaxed retirement, Joe Biden is once again the mastermind of all the evil in the world, and he's going to be prosecuted by the current president. That's really crazy.
Well, what from this current president isn't really crazy?
Oh, yeah. Well, every time he does something in line with, actual previous precedents, I could go along with that. But that happens so seldomly. And whenever he does it, everybody says, wow, they all have a sigh of relief and say, oh, he's actually acting normal. But it only lasts maybe a day or two, and then he goes back to being crazy.
You are right about that, Billy. You're right about that.
I just wanted to mention that I've been following the Blue Jays. I keep missing that Blue Jay Hunter segment. I guess that's on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m.
Okay, I have to make a note of that. And my dad, the past few years ago, he would be like 102 now, going to 103, and I'm sure he would have been terribly upset over the way his Yankees have been just totally manhandled by the Blue Jays. Who are these guys? But I really appreciate the team. I hope for the best. I'd like to see them go all the way this year, and they seem to have a chance to do so.
Billy, appreciate the call and the support for our Blue Jays. Yeah, those Yankees, if only they could learn to play defense, that might help them win more baseball games. So there you go. And yes, Ian Hunter, the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us weekly, Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. He wasn't here this week because even Blue Jay Hunter needs some time off from work from time to time. But you can count on it. One of our regularly scheduled features during the baseball season, Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m., Blue Jay Hunter here on the Mike Farwell Show. Just like every day from noon until 1, you get Talkback. That's what we're in the midst of right now on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. And let's get right back to hearing more of your voice and your thoughts on the show. Ernie is on the line with us. Good afternoon, Ernie.
Hey, Mike. My wife keeps telling me I'm trying to either relive my past a little bit, or maybe I'm calling it a midlife crisis. But I told my son Zayner, I'm like, did you know there was a time when a man beat a giant, and he's 5 years old? So I threw on the good old match when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre for the first time, and I remember when Andre was winning, and he was so concerned as a 5-year-old, and my wife was about to blurt out, "It's scripted," and I'm like, "Don't you dare ruin his innocence with this! Don't you dare!" So I just want to request I'm a Real American tomorrow in the honor of one of my the great beauty of wrestling. As much as Hogan has his legacy as well that we'll figure out. But I just want to say too, we have a pool, and every once in a while before he jumps in and jumps in, he's like, Ernie, can you play I'm a Real American? And he'll rip that shirt off, not rip it, but he'll take it off, and you'll flex, and then you'll run and jump in the pool, and I absolutely just love it.
I love to hear it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Ernie, appreciate the call, and thanks for sharing the story. The influence that these pop culture icons have on us as youngsters and still to this day. We're just learning in the last several minutes. Houston, we have a live streaming problem in the region. This morning during All News Mornings, you would have heard the story about the city of Waterloo sharing that these live streaming cameras that are active in community centers and arenas for minor hockey under the Alliance banner of minor hockey in Ontario, so that the games can be live streamed. It's all on the up and up, but the company that operates them, Live Barn, had, for some reason, left these cameras active into this off-season, and so the cameras were operating while summer camps were going on at Waterloo Memorial Rec Complex, maybe Albert McCormick Arena as well. And we've just learned in the last several minutes, same thing at the city of Cambridge, where Live Barn's cameras for the live streaming, same company, same idea, active at Hespeler Arena, Dixon Arena, and the Cambridge Sports Park, not deactivated for the summer. By no means am I trying to diminish the impact of the story. I'm sure it's a little unsettling to think about, if your kid was attending one of those camps, these cameras kind of watching them as they engaged in whatever camp activities they were engaging in. I would suspect there was nothing nefarious here, and somebody just forgot to turn off the stream, pull the plug, whatever the case may be. The cameras have been disabled now. And even if the camera was feeding something somewhere, I don't know that the other end would have been active at all, personally. Again, you may see it differently, and I'm not trying to minimize any feelings you might have about it, but that's my general sense, just in my cursory understanding of how these things work. I mean, the camera may be on, but is it actually broadcasting anywhere? To access the link on that live stream, would it be locked down? Would there be anything on that server providing the opportunity to look at those cameras right now? I highly doubt it, and this is likely just a case of somebody forgot to flip the switch at the end of the hockey season. My 2 cents on it. I will say, though, again, kudos to the city of Waterloo, which released its information last night, and Cambridge Now today, coming forward and sharing this information with us as the public, instead of one of us just finding a camera one time going, hey, why is this thing on while my kid's at this summer camp? So good on the municipalities for getting in front of this story. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a busy afternoon on the phones, and I love it this way because I want you to have your say on this show. Dave, you are next. Good afternoon, number 47.
Good afternoon, Mike. I usually don't do this, but I'm going to jump the gun.
Okay.
And give a very preliminary thumbs up to the justice system in London, Ontario. And before some of your callers called in and screamed blue murder about it, I'm going to say that not only am I a loyal supporter of the Women's Crisis Center in Waterloo, I donate every year to it. So I'm actually a supporter and donor. But on the preliminary excerpts coming out from London, Ontario, I say that's a thumbs up to the legal system in London, Ontario. And thank you, and have a great day, Mike.
Thank you, Dave. Number 47. Excellent use of the word legal system, because that's what this is. I was very curious as to how this would go, and we don't have the final verdict yet. But as Dave indicates, and as I'm sure you've heard in our updates with Matt Hutchison, the judge has been pointing to inconsistencies in the complainant's story. Speaking of the Sexual Assault Support Center here in the region, they will be on the show tomorrow morning at 9:30. We'll have more time to discuss what ultimately is the verdict in this case at that time. I'm sure many of you have thoughts on how this has all played out. So we'll reserve a further conversation until then, but Dave's preliminary thumbs up are duly noted at this point. Mark, number 39, good afternoon.
Number 39, exactly, Mike. How you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Listen, I just heard about the passing of Hulk Hogan.
Yes, 71 years.
I grew up watching that guy on TV.
I think we all did.
I think you're right. And do you remember, Mike, it was a Rocky movie when he took on Rocky in the ring?
Do I remember the ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball? Thunderlips. Yes, of course I remember. I'm a huge Rocky fan.
I know. I knew you'd remember. He killed Rocky, Mike.
No, he did not.
Oh, yeah.
What? No, he didn't. Rocky didn't. Rocky never lost. Well, except to Clubber Lang the first time. But no, Rocky came back and threw Hulk Hogan out of the ring.
Well, was that how that Hogan threw Rocky out of the ring?
Yes, and then Rocky got his gloves off, came back into the ring bare-knuckled, and beat the living hooey out of Hulk Hogan, Thunderlips, and then threw Thunderlips, Hulk Hogan, out of the ring.
Oh, my! How did I not know that? Okay, and they actually put out a wrestling album back in the early 80s. Did you know that?
I seem to recall it, yes.
And there's one song that's called I'm a Real American.
That's the song that Ernie asked if we could play.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
And it's on that album, actually, Mike.
I don't know how good it can be, Mark, but we'll consider playing it on the show tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe you can start your show off with that.
All right, maybe I can.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, 39. Appreciate it, Mark. Good to hear from you today. Rocky III was the movie. Clubber Lang, a.k.a. Mr. T, was the boxing opponent, and they did a charity event with Thunderlips, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, and Rocky won all of the fights because he's Rocky. Terry, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Yeah, it's funny Mark mentioned that. If Hulk Hogan had killed Rocky, there wouldn't have been a Rocky 4, 5, 6, or 85.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I got you. Hey, Mike, Marino that called in earlier, you should give him number 13 for the man Marino.
Oh, my gosh, that's a good one, Terry. I never thought of it. Too bad Kathy's already got number 13.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, we're talking about, actually, a couple quick things here. I listen to Mad Dog Sports on Sirius XM. You know that most of the hosts on that station are mostly New York guys. Those guys are pretty confident the Yankees are going to pull this off. I don't know how they're going to do it for a team that's been mostly irrelevant for the last 25 years, unless they have some magic they're going to pull out of their behind at the trading deadline. I don't see it because they're drifting farther and farther down. But, baseball is a game of streaks, so who knows. Mike, you were talking about cell phones earlier?
Yeah.
I remember before you had a show there. Before you started. I think you were on the country station or something. But I knew of you at that time. I was sitting in the Blues at the Odd for a Rangers game one time, and you were doing the show, the radio program with Rick Turkey. Was it
Mike Turkey?
Mike Turkey. You were on your cell phone. My poor Mike was just sitting there, kind of looking up the ice. Because I kept glancing over. I go, oh wow, Mike must be addicted to cell phones. Poor guy was just sitting there, and you were at your cell phone like crazy. So, don't ask me how I remember that, but it was funny. I thought, wow, this guy. I think cell phones at that time or smartphones were just relatively new too.
Maybe that's why Torch quit working on the broadcasts with me, because I didn't pay enough attention to him.
I thought maybe you didn't like the man. I don't know. I could be wrong in my estimation there, but yeah, that was strange. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say, Mike. And sorry about my voice. I'm finding a bit of a cold here.
I wondered if you were. Okay, get better soon, okay?
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's funny in the summertime having one of these. But,
no kidding.
Colds know no seasons. They don't know what time of the year it is. But yeah, have a good one, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks. You too. To be very clear on the record, absolutely adore Mike Torchia, like a brother, absolutely. And I am a reformed smartphone user for sure. I used to spend way too much time on X/Twitter, especially at the hockey games, because there was a following that would consume the games via social media and interact, but you only get so much time during a game to be on your smartphone. I can tell you also that the way the post-game show used to work, and I guess I am trying to defend myself a little bit here, but I would have to get cues via my phone about who it was that was on the line so that I could introduce them on the show. Here I've got this screen in front of me in my studio. When I'm at the rink, my producer would have to text me the name. Oh, it's Terry. So I'm looking at my phone, then I'm looking back up at the camera so I can talk to the viewer at the time. Anyway, it just goes on and on. I am a reformed smartphone user, but it would be difficult to imagine while a game's going on. I wouldn't have time to be on the phone. I got to watch the action. Otherwise, I'm making stuff up, and I certainly wouldn't do that to you. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every day from noon until 1, phone lines open up so we can hear directly from you on Talkback. Back to the phones we go for Sean. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon, Mike. I must say I really enjoy listening to your show in the morning. It's very informative, very entertaining. And so when I listened this morning, I was ready to be kind of entertained and informed with the daily current affairs, but I wasn't expecting to be called out savagely with regards to my dog walking habits. I mean, I'm out there and there's all these Pokemon that need to be caught. So you have to catch them all, Mike. You have to catch them all. And so if you've got a better way to catch them all, catch all these Pokemons, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, can I ask you this, sir, if I may?
Sure.
Can you catch them from your ding-dang couch?
Well, there's not as many there. There's only 5 or 6 milling around. Whereas if I'm out with Cooper the Corgi, there are literally dozens, Mike. And so I need to catch them all. So if you see me with a Corgi with phone in hand, know that I'm not checking my socials. I'm doing my part to catch them all.
It's noble work you're doing, Sean. Noble work.
Somebody's got to do it. They aren't going to catch themselves.
Thank you, and best of luck.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate that. I was worried there for a second, but I would still go toe to toe. I would. I didn't mean to call you out, you and Cooper the Corgi. How much do I love Cooper the Corgi now? We got Rosie the pandemic pup, who gets talked to incessantly by her dog walker, which is me, because what do? Talk incessantly. But that's it. And then you got Sean out there trying to catch them all. You see, this is the problem. I will just put it to you this way again. Who's in charge? You or the phone? I know the answer to that question, and I hope that you can also figure it out. I'm just be in the moment. The same week, within days of watching all of these other dog walkers, noses in their phone screens while they're walking their dogs, I'm like, just be with your dog. Be with your dog. I'm watching the Jays game, and it was a couple of nights ago. I think Gosman was pitching. Either way, it's a big strikeout to end an inning. And as they showed the replay of it, in slow motion, looking at this great pitch, you could see the guy in behind home plate with the red Blue Jays jersey on. And as the pitch got across the plate and the umpire indicated the strikeout, this guy's head came up. In other words, he was looking down at his ding-dang phone while the game was happening in front of him, and only when the crowd roared its approval did he realize, I should probably, cheer. Watch the game. I know baseball's a slow-moving game, so look at your phone during the first pitch in the count or something. But then what if somebody hits home run or there's a really nice catch on a line drive? We used to be able to go to a baseball game and just be at the baseball game. We didn't have another choice. We used to walk our dogs and just walk our dogs because we didn't have another choice. Go back to those days. You can be, I'm not saying give up your phone or be off your phone. I'm saying be where you are. You don't need the phone all the time. I just went on a tangent again. I can't help it. It really chafes my chaps. Bob, you're on Talkback.
Hey, Mike.
Hello, Bob.
Well, I was going to talk about Pierre, but I changed my mind. That would be nice to you.
Okay. Nice to me or nice to Pierre Poilievre?
You.
Okay.
I don't want to get you wound up. I was just going to say, to all those people who thought the Blue Jays baseball season was over back in April,
You knew all along, eh, Bob?
Yeah, I did. Actually,
Oh, yeah, I know you did.
I knew they'd have a good year.
Well, you know what? Now you made me upset because I was the one back in April saying this team is a mess. They're a mess. So there you go. Thanks for making fun of me, Bob.
Oh, okay then.
At least I'm being honest. You didn't know back then. Come on with your coming on. You did not.
Yeah, you got 162 games to go, Mike.
You're right. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
And we're talking games, not points, like in the Wimpy game, the Leafs.
Hey, settle down. What are you... Bob, I thought you said you were going to be nice to me today.
I changed my mind.
Apparently you did. Well, guess what? See what I just did? Can you hear what I just did? Do you hear Bob's voice anymore? Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? I just hung up on Bob. I promised that DJ got me thinking about this at the very beginning of Talkback. He was the first caller and said he's out at Costco and he sees these golf carts and they're a pretty good price. And he's thinking, why can't I use one of these to zip around town? To do, smaller in-town stuff as opposed to my larger vehicle. Less expensive to buy, clearly less expensive to operate. And it reminded me of something I saw. I saw this on our streets, one of my least favorite, too. But it was a thing, and I'm not sure it should have been a thing. So I will tell you the thing that I saw on the street that I saw it on, which was just past Chance Hell. That's right. I ventured down into the Preston part of Cambridge earlier this week. We were going to the Fiddle. If you know, you know. That's why you go to Preston, for sure. But I still got to ask you, Preston. You are like the Hotel California of Cambridge, right? You can check in anytime you want, but you can never leave. What a night. How have we not figured out that road yet? Anyway, as I was making my way down Chance Hell and around the bend, Fountain Street onto King, into beautiful Preston, I saw this. And I'm like, what is this even doing here? I'll tell you what it was. Coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, it ties into DJ's golf cart. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This show is like a Team Farwell show. And my beloved is clearly listening along and helping to produce the show today. And I so appreciate that. I should have made her number one on our listeners list, but I felt like that would have been cheating, right? Oh, yeah, your better half listens. Anyway, but she sent me the video that I didn't know she had taken of this thing that we saw as we went into Preston the other day. Down Chance Hell you go. Please, for the love of all things holy, if there is a God in the region of Waterloo, would you fix that mess? What are we doing over there? Anyway, we come down, we make the big bend at the Petro-Canada onto Fountain Street, ready to weave over onto the right to get onto King Street into Preston. And as we're coming around, there's this thing. I don't know what else to call it, but a thing. And it's on the multi-use trail / sidewalk that's along the side of the road. It's got on its back one of those orange triangular signs to indicate a slow-moving vehicle. In fact, from the back, it looks like a horse and buggy, except it's much, much smaller. This is like smart car-sized vehicle on this trail. My beloved sent me the video. I will post it to our Facebook page as soon as the show is done so you can see this thing for yourself. Facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. That's why it's a Team Farwell effort here. But here's the thing. And this guy driving was making better time than we were in traffic, but this was the problem. I'm like, how is this vehicle even a vehicle? Like, I understand the orange triangular sign, slow-moving vehicle, but it's zipping around this trail. It's going past the mill there where some big trucks are coming in and out, and by this point, we're on King Street across from Riverside Park. It's on the sidewalk, and I'm just like, I'm just not so sure about this. But I was reminded of it when DJ called at the beginning of Talkback today, mentioned these golf carts that are at Costco. Wouldn't it be a great economical way of getting around town, et cetera, et cetera? Here's the thing. I personally believe we have jumped the proverbial shark on all of this nonsense we allow on our roads. I mean this sincerely. These scooters that you just take and you zip around on with no helmet, no license, no regard for rules of the road, even these electric bikes that look like motorcycles but aren't. It's too much stuff. It's too much stuff. We need to regulate it. I think DJ made a pretty compelling case, and this guy that we saw on the way into Preston clearly is showing that you can zip around on one of these small electric vehicles pretty easily. You're getting from point A to point B, no carbon footprint, et cetera, et cetera. But we've got to regulate somehow. You gotta license these things, because otherwise they become, well, I think they already are to a degree, a menace. There are so many of these things out there that, oy, 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 is all I'm saying. So I think that the vehicles, from scooters to whatever this thing was going into Preston, are way the heck ahead of regulation. I think we need to license these things. We need to, because what happens if this guy had been hit by one of those tractor trailers coming out of the mill? What if he swerved into the street right in front of me and we had a collision? What's going to happen? So some regulation would be appreciated. And I'll get that video posted to our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. And that's it. I got to go. At some point, they got to take me off the air for the day, just for the day. We'll come back tomorrow, do this all over again. We'll talk about the verdict in that sex assault trial with the members of Hockey Canada. We're going to talk about the story of the lost cat from Guelph that was found in Toronto. How did the little kitty make it to Toronto? You'll find out on the show tomorrow. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.